The selection process is really, really key in making sure we, again, are reducing risk, because that sort of all is relatively connected. Acquisition, so quality buying process as well. So a lot of this comes into favourable contract conditions. So making sure that we get vacant possession, we get access from unconditional, we potentially could have, a few sentences in our special conditions that can really benefit clients and really start kickstarting their portfolio.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Dash Insider, the auditory epicenter for passionate property investors seeking a life of freedom, choice and abundance. And if you do want to create a life of freedom, choice and abundance, then this episode is the one for you. We're going to be talking today about 5 key ways to future-proof your property portfolio. And of course, future-proofing your property portfolio is actually the key to long-term ROI and to maximum efficacy to get to your goals. Some of the things we're going to be talking about is increasing equity, managing cash flows, and of course, maximizing the entire portfolio. Joining me on today's episode to talk through this topic is Lana Grayson. Lana was last on this podcast back in April of this year, where we talked about 5 tips to invest successfully in the current market. That was a fantastic episode, packed full of value. So Lana, I'm excited to have you back on to dig into this. How are you?
I'm good, Goose, and thank you for inviting me back.
Well, it's a real pleasure. You have been part of the Dash team for a decent amount of time now. You're almost like we would probably consider you to be one of the OGs. But for those people who don't know who you are, why don't you give us a little bit of background? Tell us a little bit, what do you do at Dash? You're the acquisition manager team lead, but talk to us about that. What does that mean and what do you do?
Yes, so I have been at Dash for almost 3 years now, which just seems nuts. 3 years in April, I think. But so I am an acquisition manager. I'm one of 6. I'm the team lead for the guys. So essentially my job is to purchase the best possible properties for our clients. So executing on their portfolio growth plan, making sure we're buying in line with that, and really trying to get to where they want to be and having the correct purchases in order to do so.
That's pretty awesome because... Correct me. Let me make sure I've got these numbers correct, because I think over the last couple of years, you personally have purchased something like 190 or 200 properties yourself. Is that right?
Yes. I looked at that the other day as well. I was like, bloody hell. I feel like I have a property portfolio of like 200 houses. I don't, but I kind of feel like I do. But yeah, it's definitely getting up there.
Yeah, it's definitely getting up there. I think you've purchased close to $80 million worth of property on behalf of our clients over the last couple of years. So the reason I point that out is the stuff we're going to be talking about today is not just academic. You've been working with hundreds of clients over the last few years. You've purchased hundreds of properties, nearly $80 million worth of real estate, which is far more than most people are ever going to interact with. Most property investors, as we know, get stuck at the first property, and you've done several hundred, right? And so the reason that is relevant is because the things we're going to be talking about today are things that you have not only observed and ideated on, but actually helped clients to do to maximize their returns on their portfolio. So why don't we get stuck into it? You came to this episode with a bit of a plan. You wanted to talk about 5 ways to future-proof people's property portfolio. And I'm super interested in that because a lot of people talk about things like, very present moment stuff, how to find the latest hotspot or to do that. It's all in the now. And what you're actually saying is that is all good. What we need to think about is the future. So why don't we talk about that? What do you mean by future-proofing your portfolio, and what's the kind of first step in thinking about how to future-proof your property portfolio?
Yeah, so the way that I look at essentially future-proofing is, what is that? That's mitigating risk. So how do we reduce risk in a portfolio? Well, I from observing a lot of clients and also overlooking a team as well, that the best way in order to do that is to diversify a portfolio, which is not groundbreaking. Most people that are listening to this would probably agree and know what that means. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into diversifying portfolio.
Let's dig into it. Let's start there. Let's just start there, and then we'll get to the rest of them. Because I know what they are, but nobody else knows what they are. Let's just go through them one by one. Diversification, you're right, because a lot of people think, oh yeah, diversification. Yeah, I know what that means. Well, what do you think it means, and how would you explain that to someone?
So diversifying based on a plan. So don't just diversify and go, okay, well, I need a property in every state and I'm good. Well, no, you need to diversify a little bit more granular than that. So you need to diversify not only location, but in product and also price point. So you're hedging your bets on the market essentially in multiple different ways.
Yeah, there's also like another lens to put on that. It's also diversification by strategic outcome that you're looking for. So, for example, we talk a lot internally about buying either growth-based assets, cash flow-based assets, or balanced assets. And of course, if you only bought growth assets, for example, then you would find yourself getting stuck. You might have bought a growth asset in every state, right? Yay, I'm diversified. But in fact, you're homogenized when it comes to creating a strategically diversified portfolio that's going to give you the optimal risk-return profile to get you to where you need to go and all of that kind of stuff. And so diversification, as you say, is much more than just geographic, because also you can have a property in every state, but if all of them are in mining towns, for example, then are you really diversified? Have you diversified your risk?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's something that most people, they think they're diversifying, but you need a plan. You need a plan that keeps you on track to make sure you can execute on diversifying correctly. And what's really awesome with most of our clients, they're coming with a portfolio growth plan. So and that's part of my job and the team that I work with, we keep people to their plan. Because again, you can buy a house in every state, you can buy a growth asset in every state, but if you've got a decent equity base and you need cash flow, well, that's not going to get you to your goals.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because like anyone can buy a house. Well, I say that very generally, of course, like some people are saying I can't buy a house, but you can, there are properties that you can buy for less than $100,000, right? So within some constraints, you have to have a certain amount of capital and whatever, you can go buy houses. But it's about how do you actually make sure that the houses you're buying are going to be the ones that move you towards your goals. So that's actually the real key. Because buying houses, nobody actually even needs any help to buy a house. Anyone can just
low barriers
what's your budget?
Entry. Yeah.
Very low barrier to entry to buy a property. So buying a property isn't the complicated part. It's how do you buy the right properties that are going to be well suited to your plan, that's going to get you to your goals, and how do you make sure that you're getting the optimal combination of assets to achieve that goal. Talk to me though about price diversification, because one of the things that people I think could make a mistake here potentially on is saying, okay, well, if I've got $1 million to spend, should I buy $1 million house or should I buy $100,000 houses? How would you think about that?
So I never like to carve it up directly in the middle. So what I always like to do is go, hey, let's plan. We've got $1 million and we've got a budget to work back from, which is awesome. We know what we've got. And how we carve that up doesn't need to be decided right now. We can carve that up once we know what we've landed on the first asset. Because there's no point going, right, we're going to buy two $500,000 houses and we're sweet. Well, no, because we might see a awesome $650,000 house, which is absolutely fantastic, and it's under market value. It's got all this sort of stuff on it, which is very hard to find. And then the balance of that could be a unit. It could be an apartment. It could be a townhouse. And we've got, $350 left to spend. So I don't like to stipulate we're going to buy this property at this time and at this price point. Having a plan around what is needed is great. You need a plan to dictate what we're going to do and how we're going to execute efficiently and to make sure we find the best asset. But it depends what we land on now that will dictate what we do next with a plan or a guidance in place.
I love that. I love that way of thinking. It's not about pre-selecting the ideas of what you're going to do. Like we're going to go buy 3 houses at $333,000. It's about identifying the best possible opportunity that's going to move you to your goals based on your plan, then adapting the balance of the plan to achieve the goals. So to your point, you could buy a house and you could buy an apartment, for example, if that was going to be suited to the plan. I love that. I love that.
And what's really awesome as well about clients that do have portfolio growth plans, and it's a product that we do offer, a service that we do offer, but it's responsive. So we can say, hey, we need to hit these certain criteria are the non-negotiables. We need to hit them to get to the goal in 10, 15, 20 years time. But what we land on now, we might have a little bit higher in terms of a yield return, or we might spend a little bit less than what we actually thought. So then that will dictate and tweak the next purchases moving forward, which is awesome because it's not absolute market of, yep, we're going to buy a house for 500 grand and that's it. And then narrow down your view on it as well.
Yeah, totally. I think that this point of diversification is really, really important because there are a lot of people out there who still believe that the only way to successfully invest in real estate is to buy, a blue chip property in Sydney, for example. You could be looking at $1 or $2 million, and that's very hard to do, to buy a property like that.
On a 2.5% yield.
Yeah, on a 2.5% yield. So the likelihood is, even if you could stretch to do that, you're probably going to get one property. One is not diversified. To your point, you need to diversify by more than just location, but you need to but owning one property is the pinnacle of undiversified. And so really thinking about, okay, well, how do you build a solid portfolio? How do you get the right level of diversification, which is going to be dictated by the individual's needs? But that necessarily probably means that you're going to need to try and buy several properties. Now, I think people get into a good position once they've got 3, 4, 5 properties is an ideal kind of number in my point of view, because you've got a nice spread in there as long as they're well-selected assets. So speaking of assets, what is the kind of next kind of thinking around future-proofing a property portfolio?
So having quality assets within that portfolio is key. Now, some clients come to us and they're like, oh, I've already got 1 or 2 properties. If I stuffed up, what do I do? I'm like, it's all good. We can fix it later. You've come to us. I actually said the other day, I'm like, maybe we should offer a service about mopping up portfolios.
Fix my, it's almost like pimp my ride, but like pimp my portfolio or something. Yeah.
Yeah, fix this mess that has occurred. But no, I mean, it's definitely quality assets, and this is where most of my experience to date is hopefully going to be helpful for people. So quality assets in a few different senses. So selecting quality assets, so quality asset selection and acquisition is key. So making sure we've got the best property, the right property, which is, looking at a lot of what our analyst team does. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. What does quality mean? Like, quality is quite subjective. So when you say a quality asset, what do you mean by that? So we look at certain metrics around that. So what would indicate quality? That might be a better way to reference it. So finding a property that has really low land supply risk. So you're in more established areas. You're going to have a stronger growth position because you're not going to be diluted by new stock continually coming to the market. So looking at demographic pairing in the area, making sure we're buying a 4-bedroom family home if we're in a suburban suburb. We're not buying a apartment.
So that points to the idea that quality is going to be different based on the location.
Correct.
And also based on the portfolio's needs, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So quality is a really interesting idea because it's not binary. It's not like a quality property must be no older than 5 years old, must be on a 600 square meter block, and that's not the definition of quality. The definition of quality is going to be specifically subjective based on the environ that it is in and also the needs of the portfolio. Because as we discovered a while ago, I remember this, we used to kind of have a bit of a rule around minimum block sizes. Then we discovered that there was a whole area where the minimum block sizes were smaller than what our minimum, the average block size was smaller than our minimum. And it was like a crazy good area to invest. And we were like,
we're knocking them out. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't even make any sense. Why are we doing that? And as a result of letting that go and realizing that quality had to be relative to the locality, we were able to unlock tons of value for our clients. So it's really important to think about this because a lot of people will say things like quality and what they, in their mind's eye, they think new means quality. But that's also not necessarily true. So defining quality, I think, is really, really useful.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And the assets, the selection process is really, really key in making sure we, again, are reducing risk because that sort of all is relatively connected. Acquisition, so quality buying process as well. So a lot of this comes into favourable contract conditions. So making sure that we get vacant possession, we get access from unconditional. We potentially could have, a few sentences in our special conditions that can really benefit clients and really start kickstarting their portfolio. So a great example of this is having being able to utilize the photos for sale for the purpose of rent. So that's a special condition that we put into a lot of our contract offers. Now, we don't always get them through. They sometimes get knocked back, but hey, at least we asked the question. And at least we're putting our clients in the best possible seat that they can be for the aim and the goal to secure the best tenancy we can. So if the property is on market and there's great sales photos, we put this in our special conditions that we can use those photos to advertise the property for rent. And we also get authority to advertise the property for rent from the date of or the day after settlement. So that can really help narrow down maybe 1-2 weeks of vacancy. And that, for example, $450 a week of rent, $900 a year, you've increased your cash flow by $900 annually in the first year. So
yes,
it can help.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. There's also another way to think about this as well. And because this idea of future-proofing your portfolio is something I really like, because what you're actually trying to make sure you do is set yourself up to not have, excuse the language, but a fuck up later on, basically, right?
Pretty much.
And if you think about like everything you've said there about a quality buying process, like you can do all these things to maximize the acquisition and make sure you're getting the kind of maximizing the outcome of the acquisition, and that is true. But also if you flip that around and say, well, what would a potential outcome be if you had a really, shoddy acquisition process? You might, for example, buy a property without doing any of the title and deed searches, for example. You might not check zonings. You might not. So there's all this stuff that you could not do if you didn't have a really robust acquisition process, which could bite you later on. So, and there's plenty of ways that could come around and bite you. There could be, there could be covenants or caveats on the property.
Flood concern, can't get insurance, all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's happened to lots of people. I've heard some pretty bad horror stories where people have bought a property and they hadn't done all the checks. And then flood's a great one, because I actually heard, there's actually a couple of people that spring to mind that I know of, where they bought these proproperties because they were like, oh yeah, this is awesome, it's so cheap and the yield's really high.
For a reason.
Yeah, and the yield's so high, it's so good. And then it's like in a freaking flood zone and they can't insure it. Can't get insurance, not even pay a premium for it. Can't get insurance. Yeah, it's like, well, that's not exactly future-proofing your portfolio, right? So I agree that having a really, quality acquisition process to select good assets is key.
And additional to that as well is asset selection is crucial, because at some point in time, you're going to have an exit strategy on that property. So if you can't get insurance, or you've bought a unit that's under 50 square meters and you're going to get stuck on the back end when you pull the trigger to sell it. So all of this preempting and bringing all of this to the front side of it. And that's why our analyst team do an incredible job at finding the best possible properties, because we have all of this knowledge in the back end to only buy the best of the best. But yeah, a lot of people don't think about the exit strategy on the selection process, and that is the key.
Yeah, that is really, really important as well. So, okay, so if people have listened to this, they're going, okay, cool, I've got to diversify. So I've got to buy more than one property, got to make sure I'm diversifying by property type, by geography, by strategy, get the right mix. I've got to make sure I'm buying a quality asset that's quality based on what the local market wants, that's quality based on my exit strategy, and I've got a quality acquisition process. I'm buying a quality asset in a quality way. What else? What's the kind of like next line of thinking in future-proofing your portfolio?
So the next one, which does tie into potentially being able to increase your cash flow as well in your portfolio, but the next one is improving quality. So value adds, essentially. So, and this is probably the one that people are most familiar with, because it's probably the most strategy people do, really. I mean, I'm doing it myself at the moment. So it's value add. So adding value to the property. And, some people just automatically default to, cool, I'm going to put a granny flat in the backyard. Well, no, because that's going to cost you $180,000. You can't get a loan against it. I'd rather buy another house for you or another 2 houses for you. So it's looking at ways to improve quality, and it can be something really minor. It can be a new vanity in the bathroom and you don't move the plumbing. Like stuff like that can just make it look better. Or I actually had a great example of this. It was a property built 70s. We had the brick arches and everything going on, which is actually coming back now, which is interesting. But the kitchen was just basic. It had like really that fake melamine, fake wood cabinetry, like orange tiles. And I was like, this is great because, all you have to do is paint the tiles. You get an air tasker, lean on your property manager. You can do heaps of stuff to easily visually improve the property. It's going to photograph better. You're probably going to get more people at the rental open. That means it's going to generate interest. People then are going to put in their applications faster because they think there's competition. There's so many sort of additional elements that can come from just real minor stuff. And don't be afraid of doing some real minor stuff either. That's really key.
Totally. And I think it's so interesting, right? Because you're right. A lot of people think of value adds, they think of major projects. I'm going to build a granny flat. I'm going to subdivide and build. I'm going to do all of these kind of things, which ostensibly may be a good idea, but also might not, because you've also got to look at what's the local appetite for that kind of a product. I remember I was looking at developing a property that we've got in Geelong, and
go to council, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah. All of that kind of stuff is the reason we still haven't done it, by the way. But the point was, I was looking to like maximally intensify it. I was like, right, what's the maximal? Let's 2-story townhouses. Let's cram everything on there that we can get
3
on there.
them. Yeah.
And going through that process, I was also talking to local real estate agents to get a sense of whether there would be product market fit. And what I basically found out was that if we built the thing that I thought was going to give us the maximal kind of coverage on the site, probably would have had the least amount of market demand because nobody would have wanted it, right? And so you've also got to think, does it? And if you're in South Australia or in Adelaide, building a granny flat sounds great. There's plenty of properties you could buy to build a granny flat on it, except you're only allowed to rent it to a direct family member. Well, unless something's changed. So you've got to be really careful in thinking through the value adds in such a way that they are a genuine value add. And I know we're going to talk about timing of value adds in a moment, or it might actually be a relevant segue to that, because one of the most interesting things that I see people do is they do improvements around their home, for example, and they think that is adding value. But value doesn't actually get created until there's a crystallization event. So if you add an air conditioner to your property, right, that's, ostensibly good, right? But if you 5 years later or 10 years later go and do a refinance, guess what? The air conditioner doesn't matter, right? So thinking through the value adds in a way that you're actually going to get the right return. And back to your kind of point a minute ago, cosmetic renovations are typically going to give you the best bang for your buck. So if you find a property that looks shit,
you're not going to look at it. You're not going to buy it. You're going to rent it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if it looks pretty average, but it's a great property in the right place or whatever, and all you need to do is change the way it looks and feels. That's typically where you're going to get the biggest bang for buck. Paint. Yeah, cosmetic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the cosmetic, the visual value adds are the best way to go. Like, you're not going to get more rent per week for a new roof. Like, it might transition to a higher val. I'd probably arguably say it's going to doubt that, but
yeah. If it did, it'd be dollar for dollar. If it did, it'd be dollar for dollar. It'd be like, okay, $20,000 of additional roof, $20,000 all the additional value, maybe.
But it's not going to be a marginal significance. But also, it's the best way to think about a visual sort of update, ascension, and adding quality to a property is, okay, well, the money I spend, I want to get that back, at least get that back in growth. Like if I've spent 10 grand, I want it to at least be worth another 10 grand, at least. And also result in an uplift in rent as well, because then why do it? But sometimes that's also the answer. Like if it's not going to result in either of those things, I'd rather deploy your cash to the next purchase. So leaning on your team around you, your property manager is the best person to chat to about that. They're on the ground. They will know, hey, tenants don't care about this. They just want to find 4-bedroom homes because they're really hard to find at the moment, or whatever it might be. Lean on them, because a lot of people, and I'm going to talk about this later, but a lot of people are fearful of contacting their property manager, which I don't know why. Like, you should have a really good rapport with them, and they're on the ground. You pay them a management fee. This is their job.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you're paying them to do the work and they're not allowing them to do the work, what's the point?
Correct.
What's the point?
Or providing you good guidance on what you want to do next. But the benefit as well with Dashdot is we are your team forever. So if you ever have a question, you just, jump on and ask a question, give us a call or whatever it might be. But some clients go, the property's rented for 600. My property manager thinks I can get 610 now. What do you think? And I'm like, 610? I'm like, go back at 640. Like, what are you doing? Like, really just ask the question, because I can tell you, I'm about to move house in a few weeks and it is a nightmare. So for an extra $30 a week that you might, or the tenant can say no and then counter and have that conversation. Don't be fearful of that. That's really important.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. You want to keep tenants for life, but you shouldn't be scared of managing the risk. Talk to me about timing though. Talk to me about timing of value adds, because that's a real key consideration in this whole value adding thing, and another really key point on future proofing your portfolio. Because if you just buy a property and then as I kind of mentioned a moment ago, if you add value and then do nothing about it for 5 years, have you really even added value? How do you think about value adds as it relates to timing, as it relates to future proofing your portfolio? How do you think about that?
So timing value adds is, pretty critical. So I'll just use an example, which I've got, purchased the property for some awesome clients. And we wanted to do a value add. We wanted to put around 15 grand of work into the property. It was a bit basic, and we only had a very narrow window in order to do that. So they were like, right, this is a growth-focused asset. We want to milk as much out of this as we possibly can. We're going to refinance in about 6 months' time. So what can we do now in order to make sure that we can be in the best position possible when we do the reval and refinance and so forth? So timing value adds is really important. You obviously can't go and paint a property 6 months into a 12-month tenancy, because it's far too much tenant disruption. And some tenants would then request compensated or lower rent per week or whatever that might be. So you want as least tenant disruption as possible. So timing is really critical. And if you're this particular property was a growth-focused asset, and we're like, right, let's be very strategic on what we're going to do here. And it was a great result. And I can go through some of the information, like some of the numbers here, because it's
go through it. I think it'll be useful for people to hear. Yeah, go through it. Yeah,
pretty nuts. So with this particular property, we bought it for $440. It had a tenancy in place as a periodic tenancy at $400 a week, which was well below market rent that what we were wanting to inherit. So we actually were seeking a vacant possession. The tenants were happy to move. They were like, look, we don't really care. It's all good. We can't pay that. So it is what it is. So we got vacant possession. We settled on the property 12 weeks later. We secured a tenancy for $570 a week. And during that 3 month time frame, we did about a 15K. I budgeted 15K, came in at about 17,500. So a little bit above budget. But for that uplift, we were able to achieve $570 a week in rent, which we actually budgeted $550. So that was pretty good. And we also, this is the absolute, the best in terms of value. We bought it for $440 and it got valued for $485 12 weeks later.
Wow. So $17,500 of spend created $45,000 of value. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. Plus the increase in rent as well.
Yeah, so it's almost $3 to $1 return. Obviously, some of that would be market growth as well. So even if you were conservative, you're still going to getting a $2 to $1 return, 2 to 1 return on the money spent on the value add, plus the increase in rent. So, and just to kind of recap on that, so did you say it was $400 at purchase and then $570? What was the?
So $400 was under market value. So we actually had $450 as market value rent. So if we did nothing, we get $450 a week, easy. The benefit of this particular example is these clients, we actually came in under budget from what we originally planned to spend. So we had around 20 grand left over. So for 20 grand, we couldn't buy another property, and they already had certain great, very healthy savings rate in place that was already mapped out for them for their next purchase. So they're like, well, what do we do with this extra cash? you could whack it in your offset, happy days, or you could actually put it to work, which provided a significant uplift in value on the property in a very small amount of time. It's like just over a 9% growth in 12 weeks, 3 months, and also allowed us to increase the gross yield from about 5.3 out of 450 per week, which is what it was if we just left the property as is, to 6.7 by spending the 17.5.
Hectic. That's hectic. That's insane. That's awesome. That is so good. That is such a great example.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously not everyone is in this position. These particular clients were in this position and they were wanting to really lean into the process. And this sort of comes into sort of the main fundamentals of the best way to future-proof your portfolio is to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have a budget. We were under budget. We explored options to be able to execute really successfully. And to have a good team, like they had to project manage this. This wasn't free. Like this took hours to do, and they're East Coast based and this particular property was in Perth. So it's management, it's leaning into the process, it's utilizing the team. We passed them on to a really good property manager that was really proactive. They built a good relationship with them. So it really worked. Now, if you're in this position, it's a great option to explore, but it's only because it can result in the uplift in growth and also the uplift in rental income. But you have to speak to your property manager if this is even the best way to go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, your property manager is the best resource when you think about when you're thinking about adding value and what's actually going to matter in that market. They're such a good resource. I want to shift gears a little bit and think about the future a little bit more, because one of the potentially biggest mistakes that I think investors make is not actually taking care of their portfolio. You've talked about the importance of a property manager several times already, but a lot of property investors tend to not want to spend any money on their properties. So I would love to get your take on that and how that relates to, future risk in the portfolio. Do you want to talk to that?
So maintaining quality is really what's important in a portfolio. And again, we have an exit strategy at some point in time. You will be selling this property, highly likely if it's a growth-focused asset. We've factored in a sell down 5, 10, whatever years down the track. So investing in like repairs and maintenance is really important. And so most people don't like spending money on their properties, but I can tell you, I read building and pest reports every single day. My entire team are always reading building and pest reports. I love our inspectors. They're awesome people to work with. And they can say, like, when we're buying a property, they'll go, hey, this is bloody good. Do not let this go. This has been really well maintained. I'd buy it myself. Like, that's the best outcome we can get. And it's because these people have put money into their properties. They've not been afraid of repairs and maintenance. Now, caveat that, obviously to an extent, there's always exceptions to the method of this, but don't be afraid of it because it does pay off in the end. And, you can overcapitalize. You can go to the complete other realm of this, which we have had a client before going, I want to be the best landlord I can be, which is awesome, which is a great way to be. But you don't need to put all new air cons and new kitchen cabinets in your house. Like, they're all good.
Yeah, you don't need to go, the tenant wants a spa. Okay, I'll pay for spa. But I think showing your tenants that you care and care enough for them to have a good quality of existence, I think is really, really important. And you're right, it does pay massive dividends long term. Not only does it stop your building, the property that you bought falling into disrepair because, stitching time saves 9 and all that kind of stuff. If you prevent decay of your property, it's a lot cheaper in the long run than it is to fix massive problems later on at the end. So there's that. So it makes more sense to keep it in good nick along the way. But in doing so, you will attract continuously a better quality of tenant, or you will retain a better quality of tenant. And also, if you are going to get a valuation done on your property, and if it's not a desktop valuation, and if the valuer goes out to do a full value or a curbside or whatever, they're going to look at the property. And if it looks well taken care of, it's going to get a better valuation than something that looks like it's falling down and, you know, it's only worth the title that it's got. And I think it's really, really important. Like, that's the way that Gabby and I think about our properties. You know, the tenants, it's like, okay, the windows are missing fly screens. Okay, cool, let's get fly screens. There's a leak somewhere.
With them.
Yeah, be proactive, yeah.
Yeah. Proactive and not reactive is probably the best way to go with maintenance, because, yeah, you need to invest in your property. Like, investors that think, oh, look, I just want to buy a property and I don't want anything, I don't want any maintenance, I want nothing to do and I don't want to be, maybe buy gold bars and put them under your bed. Maybe property isn't for you. This is, you know, part of your responsibility as a landlord is to make sure that you have a safe, habitable space for someone to live in. And it's the tenant's home. And guess what? You don't have an active property portfolio if you don't have tenants.
You mentioned something there, being proactive and not reactive. And I think that's worth double clicking on a little bit, because being reactive is if the tenants ask for something, you respond. Okay.
Correct.
Being proactive is getting the property manager to go through the property from top to bottom and create a list of all the work that may need to be done, and then like attacking that all in one go. Now, there's a real massive benefit to that. It's actually heaps cheaper, because if you get a handyman or whatever to go out to the property every time there's one little thing, you're going to be getting call-out fees every single time they go out there. But if you get it all done in one go, you're going to get a better price for the overall work. And so that actually is a really good way to save money, is to get ahead of the game and go, all right, what's all the stuff? How much budget have I got? How many things can we tick off there? Let's go at it and let's try and get as much stuff done as possible. It's actually going to be cheaper and better in the long run.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And yeah, and again, that is part of your property manager's, that's their job. Like, their job is to make it as seamless for you as possible. Tenant retention is a huge one. And vacancies can really, really hurt a portfolio. Like, if you've got a property that's vacant for a few weeks or a few months, and we've all been so used to this fast-paced rental, obviously we have a housing shortage, so no one's really experienced that. And that could happen. I'm not saying it is going to, but it could. And you need to, and also tenants is also someone that might want to buy your house as well. So really think about things in a more of a pragmatic way than just, oh, the tenants are annoying because the tap's leaking or something.
Love that. So just to recap, 5 key ways to future-proof your property portfolio: diversification, tick; buying quality assets and having a quality acquisition process, right? So understanding what quality represents and also how to buy it in the right way, tick; value adding, but making sure you're adding the right things in the right way at the right time. So value add timing, tick; and maintaining your portfolio so that you've actually got a good quality asset long term. Otherwise, it's just going to fall into disrepair, and the value is going to fall out the bottom of it. Value in all kinds of different ways. Value in the rents, value in the actual valuation of the property, all that kind of stuff. Lana, I think we've covered a lot of really good ground here. How do you feel about this?
Good. I hope it can help people with either their existing portfolio or help them in how to think about creating a portfolio as well. But also if people, if they do have existing assets that aren't going to get them to their goals, that's cool. We can fix it. It's not a problem. You just have to really be able to lean in and be approachable on the topic as well. So I hope it's helpful for anyone out there.
I think it's useful for people to be thinking like this, to not just be thinking about the dopamine hit of like, what do I do today, but also how do I think about, building a portfolio that's going to last the distance. Lana, as always, I enjoyed our time together. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. It's always a pleasure to get to spend some time with you. So thanks. It's been a real joy. For those of you who are listening to this, if you found value in this and you think of anyone else who you think will get value in this, make sure you share that with them. Share it with a friend, family member, or a loved one. And of course, whatever platform you're on, make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, click all the buttons, do all of the stuff, and make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, which will be coming up next week. And until then, stay awesome, stay powerful. We'll see you soon.